Pluto is around 40 cosmic units, away from the Sun, and is a dim and unclear item. This far-off, divine body follows a fairly stretched circle around the focal point of the planetary group, finishing it each 248 Earth years. We realize that Pluto's range is 1,188 kilometers, which implies that it is observably substandard in size. Not exclusively to every one of the planets of the nearby planet group, yet additionally to a portion of their satellites, including the Moon. Simultaneously, perceptions of the heavenly bodies legitimate. Movement made it conceivable to work out its mass with a serious level of precision ended up being little, simply 1.3 times 10 to the force of 22 kilograms, or 18 of the lunar mass. It is not difficult to see that Pluto is substantially more like little divine bodies, for example, Eris Ceres or Sadna. As far as its attributes, this is the motivation behind why it bested the rundown of Bantam planets in 2006. Because of its long and extended direction, Pluto has a long orbital cycle. Just in 1989, did the planetoid first pass its circle perihelion since its disclosure moving toward the Sun, as close as 29.7 galactic units from that point forward. This distance has been consistently expanding, and will arrive at its most prominent worth in the year 21 or 13. At that point, the Bantam planets will be close to its aphelion, which is 49, 3 galactic units from the focal point of our framework. Consequently, Pluto is an exceptionally far-off and diminished space object that is the justification for why it shouldn't be visible from Earth with the unaided eye. And surprisingly, in pictures from the Hubble Space Telescope, the Bantam planet seems to be a dinky, earthy-colored circle, with no surface subtleties obviously. In such circumstances, it is extremely difficult to concentrate on the heavenly body appropriately to take care of this issue. The new Skyline's automated orbital station was shipped off, Pluto in 2006. It required a long 9.5 years to arrive at his objective on its way. It radiated back to us nitty-gritty pictures of Jupiter. It was only after 2015 that the shuttle at last arrived at the principal object of its main goal as it went by Pluto. The station mentioned around 400 observable facts, gathering in excess of 6 gigabytes of data, and it required over a year to communicate this huge measure of information to Earth. Sadly, the test's direction didn't permit capturing the whole surface of the Bantam planet. The truth of the matter is that New Skylines didn't go into a circle around Pluto, however orbited round Pluto to have the option to investigate other space objects. Prior to continuing on toward the heavenly bodies, landscape highlights, we want to comprehend its inside structure as per the right now acknowledged model. Pluto has an enormous center with a width of around 1,700 kilometers, comprising of a combination of different types of water, ice and shakes. In its middle, it is encircled by 300-kilometer ice mantle. There are most likely structural cycles running in the mantle, and in the second they're very understudied, the mantle in its turn is covered by an outside, which is a combination of solidified gases, for example, nitrogen, methane, and carbon monoxide. As per a few suppositions, Pluto's center might produce sufficient intensity to soften a portion of the frigid mantle for this situation. Far below the outer layer of the planetoid, there ought to conceal an exceptionally pungent and harmful sea containing a lot of broken-down smelling salts with respect to the surface. Temperature of the Bantam planet, it is extremely low and isn't more than 60 Kelvin or 213 degrees Celsius under no. Our excursion around Pluto will begin at the most remarkable and very much concentrated on component of its help, Tombo Regio. This tremendous region is situated in the tropical zone of the planetoid and is formed like a hard sketch. This similarity procured the locale its casual moniker. The heart, its size arrives at 200-300 kilometers, which implies that the plane possesses about a fourth of the heavenly body's whole region. Tombo Regio's surface isn't homogeneous. Subsequently, there is a smooth and light plane in its western part known as Sputnik Planitia, whose breadth estimates 1,492 kilometers. A rise guide will uncover this district to be a tremendous marsh region. It is covered with a thick layer of nitrogen ice, as well as carbon monoxide and strong methane. These substances have a light shading which makes a few pieces of the plane reflect up to 90% with the light falling on them. There are likewise essentially no holes, which implies that the locale is extremely youthful in geographical terms as per the principle. Speculation Sputnik Lenisha framed around 100. A long time back, when Pluto encountered a crash with an enormous divine body, thus a tremendous effect pit, seemed it was loaded up with items in the speculative inward expanse of the Bantam planet, which quickly froze there. A few normal elements of the help of the plane can act as proof of this, for instance. There are a lot of smooth surface regions on it, going from 20 to 30 kilometers in size, with slopes and dejections focused on the boundaries between them. This sort of design looks like convection cells, which show up in any liquid warmed from beneath this, might act as a backhanded affirmation of the speculation of Pluto's warm inside Tombow. Reggio is encircled by nearly high mountain edges. Subsequently, Hilary Montes deceiving the west, from Sputnik Planitia, arrive at 3.5 kilometers in level. Townsing Montes are situated in the southern piece of the heart, some of them pinnacle as high as more than 6 kilometers over the Bantam planet's normal superficial, which makes this edge the tallest one tracked down on Pluto. Surprisingly, these stones are probably going to be made up generally of water ice, and in temperatures, however low as here on Pluto, water ice may be as strong. As rock moving a little further south, we can see a profound bowl encompassed by gigantic motor-layered edges of ice and rock. It is expected that it could be the vent of an old cryo fountain of liquid magma, and the stone around it is its various frozen ejections. Their substance organization is of extraordinary interest to science in light of the fact that whenever it is known the characteristics of Pluto's internal cosmetics might be concentrated on the eastern part of Tombow Reggio is hazier. Likewise, its surface is pitted with an extraordinary number of cavities, which implies that this locale is by a wide margin senior than Sputnik. Planitia moving further east along the equator, we will see a chain of dim spots many kilometers in breadth. These items are called maculars and are named after dim gods of different societies. For instance, one of them is named Balrog together. They structure a monster structure called the knuckle reinforcements, enveloping the heavenly body along the equator. The maculas are isolated by high mountain ranges, and their surface is cut by profound cleft, arriving at many kilometers long. Cthulhu macula stretches toward the west from Tombow Reggio. It is the biggest dim spot on Pluto. Estimating very nearly 3,000 kilometers, its surface reflects not in excess of 30% of the light shed on it, which is an unmistakable difference with a brilliant and light Sputnik Planitia nearby. There is still no dependable data about what maculars are. It is expected that they're dim. Variety is because of a high content of thurlins joined with a moderately enormous grouping of effect holes. This demonstrates that maculas are strikingly old. It is likewise realized that the outer layer of Cthulhu macula is heterogeneous. Consequently, its help in the western part is undulating. The focal part is a smooth plain, and the eastern part is covered with mountains and pits unfamiliar. Spot of Cthulhu macula behind us. We should travel north here. Lies Lowell Reggio, the tremendous valley encompassing Pluto's North Pole. Shockingly, this spot is, at present, the most enlightened piece of the heavenly body's surface. The fact is that Pluto's pivot of revolution has an extremely enormous slant. As for the plane of its circle, so in its development, it wound up pointing toward the sun with its north pole. It is expected, that is hence that the thickness of Pluto's climate has significantly increased throughout the course of recent years. In spite of the developing separation from the sun, all things considered, the sun's beams vanish. Nitrogen ice, C. Tidal to the pole, which goes into the Bantam planets, environment in its orbital movement. Pluto has various quirks contrasted with the planets of the planetary group, notwithstanding the way that its circle has a recognizable slant to the ecliptic plane. The actual planetoid continually performs cyclic motions close to a specific direct. This is expected toward the presence of a huge satellite gravitationally influencing the Bantam planet. It is called Charon, and its mass is 1. Multiple times 10 to the force of 21 kilograms, which is in excess of 11%. The mass of Pluto itself as an outcome. Both divine bodies circle a typical mass. Placed between them, they're tidally locked to one another, so they face each other with similar sides, consistently resemble Pluto's. The outer layer of its satellite is discernibly more obscure and shows a wealth of water ice, which is blended in with methane and nitrogen. Just in a locales notwithstanding. Charon, there are a few different satellites. However, every one of them are a lot more modest and unpredictable in shape. Nixon Hydra, found in 2005, measure several kilometers, and Kerberos and Styx, which were found later, are not more than 16 kilometers. In that frame of mind of these heavenly bodies comprise basically of water ice, and were presumably caught by Pluto's gravity from the Kuiper belt. Tragically, a critical piece of Charon was not trapped in that frame of mind of perspective on the new Skylines test's cameras. However, numerous inquisitive territory highlights can be tracked down on the apparent surface of the divine body, for instance, toward the south of the equator, that lies a tremendous district considered Vulcan plenum. Its region isn't known exactly, however, it isn't under 400,000 square kilometers, which is tantamount with the size of a typical European country. Here the most elevated highest point of Charon can be found. Kubrick Mars, its width estimates around 40 kilometers, and as per a few gauges its level arrives at 4,000 meters likewise. The mountain is encircled by a wide roundabout channel, figuratively speaking as much as 2 kilometers deep as per a few. Suppositions Kubrick Mons may, as a matter of fact, be a cryo-spring of gushing lava for this situation. It is reasonable that their air around it has sunk under its own load because of the amping of the underground repository. Toward the north stretches the tremendous Oz-sphere, the outer layer of which is bookmarked with numerous holes. It is isolated from Vulcan plenum by an arrangement of Goliath edges and cleft, with an all-out level of about a kilometer. The biggest of them is Quietness Chasma, which is 200 kilometers in length, with a width differing from 40 to 50 kilometers. It very well may be, however, profound as 7 kilometers, and it could be challenging to investigate its base on the grounds that, as a result of the thick shadows cast by the lofty slants further north, yet close the very pole. There is the monster Mordor macular. Its measurement arrives at 475 kilometers, and its starting point is as yet easy to refute as per the predominant speculation. Today, nitrogen and methane drifting from Pluto's environment were caught by Charon's gravity, thus settled at its poles. After openness to bright radiation, they transformed into tholins and step by step, gathered in the ice of the heavenly body. This presumption needs confirmation, which will be an object of future missions. Charon generally stays a secret to us on the grounds that its exploration is just barely beginning, albeit the Pluto-Charon framework is without a doubt, quite possibly, of the most intriguing design with regards to the nearby planet group. It is as yet understudied. Sadly, the new Skylines test left its environs quite a while in the past, and the heavenly bodies themselves are quickly getting away from us, taking their mysteries along. Right now, the test is in excess of 50 galactic units from the Earth and occasionally radiates back to us a few critical information. All by around 2030, its frameworks will ultimately fall flat and the test will be abandoned in the chilling openings of room. Dear companions, we're at present not transferring new recordings on our channel as frequently as we'd favor. Their creation calls for increasingly more investment and defay on the grounds that we need to improve and make commendable recordings of the greatest quality. Your help is the principal inspiration that assists the channel with pushing ahead.